Hi, everybody. My name is Bob Goodwin, the founder of Career Club, and welcome to another episode of LinkedIn Live with Career Club. We're very pleased today to have Plinio Ayala, who is the president of Per Scholas, join us. Before we do that, if you're not familiar with Career Club, you're welcome to check us out at career.club, where we're using proven sales methods and tools to help people find a career that matters to them. So we invite you to check us out on our website. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, you're certainly welcome to do that. I would invite you to do that, as well as follow Career Club. As this is a live event, we are open to taking comments and questions. So please feel free to interact. Also, I want to say thank you to my colleague, Heather, who is the brains behind the operation. And as questions and comments come through, I know she'll be putting some of those up on the screen. So we would love to hear from you. So with that, I would like to introduce Plinio Ayala, who I said is the president of Per Scholas. And so Plinio, welcome.
Bob, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. And Heather, I don't know if we can get Plinio on the screen. There we go. Awesome. There he is. Wouldn't want to miss your handsome face. So thank you.
Thank you.
Normally, at this point, Plinio, we would start getting into a little bit of an icebreaker session, which we'll do here in just a moment. But you had the very sensitive and good idea to maybe let's start off and have a little bit of a prayer for the families, survivors of the tragic event in Texas yesterday. Yes?
Yes, absolutely, Bob.
So if you would like to maybe lead that, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to do that. To all of the families and loved ones of those who lost a family member yesterday. We are thinking about you. You are in our hearts. And, you know, as a country, we need to be supportive of you throughout this new journey that you're experiencing.
Yes. Thank you so much. And amen. This first thing I thought about this morning waking up is just lives that have been shattered, and that this is it's not today's headline. This will be lasting for generations, the impact of this. So I thank you for having the sensitivity to not ignore that, but to let's address that head on. And so thank you for doing that. So I think that, speaks very highly of your character. So let's get to know you here a little bit. So where were you born and raised, Plinio?
So I was born in the South Bronx in the 70s and 80s during a very tough time for the borough.
Yeah. So, and then where did you go to school?
I attended Wesleyan University. Was very lucky to obtain a scholarship to attend that school in Middletown, Connecticut.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, good on you. And then a little bit about your family.
I am married and been married for 33 years. I have 3 children, 31, 25, and 22,
Awesome.
and 2 little dogs.
Oh, there you go. Awesome. Are they COVID dogs, or were they there before COVID?
They've been here for a while. So yeah, part of the family.
Awesome. Very, very, very cool. And then obviously we're going to talk a lot about your work at Per Scholas, but do you mind just sort of giving us kind of an aerial view of your career?
Yeah, when I graduated college, I put together a little kitty of $1,000, went to Puerto Rico and started a refrigeration and air conditioning business. Did that for 2 years, sold that business, and came back and decided that was going to help me support myself while I was helping people in the community get jobs. And then quickly moved into this career that I have, which is helping create opportunities for people that often don't have them.
Yeah. So that probably will bridge very nicely into our next topic in a minute. But just as a human being, what do we find you doing when you're not at Per Scholas? What are other activities, passions that you have?
Bob, I am a longtime suffering New York Mets and New York Jets fan. Now, my Mets have gotten off to a good start, and the New York Jets had a good draft. So we're hopeful about both teams this year.
Awesome.
Oftentimes seasons end, a couple of days into the season.
Yeah, well, you're certainly not, glomming on to the big teams and being the follower. So good on you for Mets and Jets. There you go.
That's right.
So I became familiar with Per Scholas several months ago. That's not true, 2 years ago. And I'm here in Cincinnati, as you know, and Jay Deering is here, and was introduced to him by a colleague and a mutual friend. And as I was learning more about the organization, I just was increasingly, wanted to get involved. And, thankfully that has happened in the past couple of months, which I'm really, really pleased about. But what I thought might be helpful for folks is if you could just explain a little bit the name,
Sure.
the need that the organization saw in the marketplace, and then just sort of quickly what the value proposition is at a high level for Scholas.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for your contributions, Bob. We've been excited to have you on our advisory board in Cincinnati.
Thank you.
The organization is celebrating its 27th year. It's evolved into probably one of the leading, if not the leading, IT workforce development organization in the country. But we started as a very different organization. We were in the digital divide business. And so we would solicit end-of-life computer equipment from corporations, bring it to this huge warehouse in the South Bronx, and refurbish computers and get them back out to hands of folks for $200 at a pop. And it was really our way of trying to mitigate what we had foreseen to be a very huge divide digitally in low-income communities. But over time, we had to build a workforce to refurbish these computers. And within 6 months of being with us, they left us because they had a skill that translated to a lot more money in the market than what we could pay. And so we began to look at that as an opportunity to really use IT workforce development training as a way of mitigating poverty in the South Bronx. And what's emerged now is an organization that is solely doing workforce development in the IT space. We've grown to now 18 campuses across the country. From the original cohort of 100 people a year to what will be 4,000 learners served this year.
Wow. So that's very interesting how it started off and what it kind of morphed into, and how you guys were seeing, hey, wait a minute, there's a market dynamic here that we weren't anticipating. And rather than view it as our loss, it's like, how do we take this observation and parlay it into creating even more opportunity and bridging the digital divide in a slightly different way?
That's exactly right. I think part of our strength is our ability to be extremely entrepreneurial, which leads us to have the flexibility to pivot when we need to. And I think the other big contributor to our success has been this ability to embrace change, right? We are of the belief that you shouldn't fear it, that it should be part of your DNA. And I think over time, the organization has evolved in different ways. I'll give you one other example. Prior to COVID, we were completely an in-person training operation. COVID forced us to rethink that. We have successfully launched classes that have trained over 3,000 Americans remotely since COVID, with the same results that we experienced pre-COVID. And so that is now an opportunity for us to use as a way of scaling our program. And talk about 4,000 people this year. Our goal is to get to 10,000 learners enrolled a year by 2026.
Wow. So very quickly, do you mind sharing with folks what the curricula are, the different lanes that people could get training in?
Absolutely. Well, I think let me start by saying that one of our biggest partners in all of this is our employer community, right? They inform every aspect of our program, help us design curriculum, assessment tools. And at the end of the day, if I'm producing the talent that they're seeking, they should hire our students. And that's been the case, right? 85% of our students graduate and 80% get jobs in the industry, earning 4 times more than what they were earning prior to our training program. I think the evolution of our training has been such that we launched the organization's training program, 20 plus years ago as an IT support only training. And now through the help of our employers, we offer 13 different training tracks, everything from cybersecurity to software development, cloud computing. Of course, our IT support program still remains as part of what we do. But our approach with employers allows us to continuously iterate on our curriculum so that we are training folks on the most relevant skills needed.
Well, you talked about, embracing change. That's the very definition of technology, right? It's constantly changing and evolving. And what you've built is a framework that can flex with the changes and be very responsive to your employer partners, which continues to keep Per Scholas relevant, if not differentiated, from other sources. Another big chunk, though, that I really want to make sure that we identify here early on, because it's a big part of what I'm passionate about with the organization, is the typical profile of a learner. Who's coming to Per Scholas as a learner, and what's their background, kind of in a general, if you had to paint with a broad brush?
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Bob. I mentioned earlier that I grew up in the South Bronx, and just to paint that quick picture, because I think it's important for people to understand sort of the evolution of this organization based on what we know to be true in communities that we serve. 1977, President Carter came to the South Bronx and was standing on St. Anne's Avenue. And he was standing on a bed of rubble with abandoned buildings behind him. And there were two constants that existed then in me growing up in the South Bronx, and still exist in a lot of communities across this country. The talent was always there and continues to be there. What often isn't there is the opportunity. And so you have learners coming to us from 18 cities across the country, primarily people of color, individuals in their early 30s primarily, although we do serve young adults, gritty, determined, smart. They just need that one chance, that one opportunity that can transform everything. And so in 15 weeks, we are able to provide them the IT skills that they need to begin a very successful IT career.
Well, the important thing that I want to make sure, these are people who aren't coming to you with a four-year college degree. Right.
That's exactly right. They're coming to us mainly with just a high school diploma, or if they tried college, they didn't complete. It's an opportunity to really redefine post-secondary education in this country to include these programs like Per Scholas as part of the solution to get talent to corporations that are desperately looking for them.
So, which is actually the topic of our talk today, which is solving the tech talent problem. So, I think a lot of our listeners will know this, but just to put it out there, is there are way more job openings than there is talent to fill those roles in technology related roles and things that we talked about: cloud computing, software engineering, cybersecurity, IT help desk, and others. And so employers have this, drought of talent that they're trying to, address. What I just see last month, wages for tech jobs have gone up 30% in a lot of markets year on year. And you compound that over the past few years, which is why CFOs are freaking out on like how much tech talent costs. But a big part of the problem there is a mindset, even a habit of, well, but they must come from four-year college degree programs, right? And you guys very significantly diverge from that model and are opening up a giant talent pool to employers that they may not have even considered.
Bob, that's exactly right. The numbers don't match up. We are most likely to produce about 100,000 graduates from college with either associates or BA degrees in computer science for what is projected to be millions of job openings across the nation. It just doesn't work, right? And so I think corporations are, to their credit, beginning to think differently about talent acquisition. And so organizations like Per Scholas can partner with these companies because we are able to construct training that's specific for them, right? That allows them to receive talent with the skills that they're looking for, which permits them to think differently about the degree requirement.
Yes.
As long as someone can do the job, a lot of these jobs, you don't need a degree to be incredibly successful. And I think corporations and their mindset are beginning to shift accordingly.
Yeah. So, and some of this may be self-evident, but I'd really love to hear you talk about, from the learner's perspective, the benefits that they're getting by going through a Per Scholas program.
Yeah. Oh, Bob, I think, I talked about our learners being gritty. And you mentioned, which I think is spot on, we're in the business that's ever changing. And I think one of the skills that our students and learners bring is the ability to continue to upskill themselves so that they remain relevant. So our students not only get the skills, the technical skills in the 15 weeks that they're with us, but we also provide career coaching and career development skills. So how to communicate, how to fill out an application, how to interview, how to work in a team, all of the things that we think creates a well-rounded individual for an employer. We also provide a series of support services through our career coaches. So if someone needs childcare, if there's an issue with housing, we're able to provide those services that allow our students to get to the finish line. I think part of what we create for our students is not only this educational experience, which we think is fantastic, and our numbers bear out that we're having impact, but in many ways, we're creating a network, right? Many of our students don't have that connection to employers. And so in many ways, we become that vouching entity that connects that person and their skill sets to the employer that's desperately looking for that talent.
Yeah. So all wonderful. I would also add, so you talked about the career development. I was so privileged, pleased to be able to participate in one of those a few weeks ago, and we'll be able to do it again in July, where I got to work with one of the local cohorts here in Cincinnati. And gritty, motivated. I was just like so impressed with the quality of learner that I was interacting with for a couple of hours. But from a benefit perspective, one of the things that I was sharing with them is what you guys are doing is so life transformational, not just for you. You're proving to yourself that you can do this. You're proving to yourself that I do belong in this, level of work and at this earning level, at the risk of being crass. But also, there's benefits then to their families, right? So you talked about 4 times more than they were making before. Our friend Jay here in Cincinnati talks about thriving wages, which are at 125% of the median income for the local community. So it's not just a living wage, like that's bad, but it's not just a living wage, it's a thriving wage. And so not only does the individual learn these new skills, but their family is lifted up by being able to earn at a level like this. Then what I believe is potentially, not as well understood are the community effects. Because now that's being modeled for people in the community. And as you said earlier, particularly people who are coming from less advantaged areas or maybe in rural areas, that it's like, maybe I can do that. Well, look at Plinio. He's doing it. Maybe I can do that too. Maybe that is a path that's available to somebody like me with my background. And I'm not going to go to Harvard or Duke or wherever, but I can still have a great job and provide for my family. And so the kind of the ripple effect of the benefits for the learner, to me, are just astounding.
Bob, you're absolutely right. The multiplier effect of our work is significant. You touched upon, the impact on family members. Communities begin to change when folks are working and earning a career wage. I think I call this the triple win, right? Our learners win by establishing these incredible careers. Our employers win because they have access to this amazing, diverse pipeline of talent. And frankly, our economy wins, right? Because we're moving people from being dependent on the system to now being contributing citizens. We had the results of our most recent random control trial, sort of the gold standard evaluations that came out several years ago, that indicated that our students were less likely to be dependent on any type of public assistance by a significant amount. And they also calculated a return that indicated that for every dollar invested in Per Scholas is an 800% return to society. And so it's not just us saying it, it's third-party evaluators who are saying it. But at the end of the day, it's not about reports. You see it in the lives of the people that we're touching. As you just mentioned with your interaction with our learners in Cincinnati. It's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. Just super quick, my other very interesting observation from working with the cohort here was the team spirit that they had. I was not expecting that. And you talked about COVID, and I had to do it via Zoom because I had just come off being sick myself. And so we did it on Zoom, and just watching everybody on the, all the little tiles of folks that were on the call and in the room, and just how supportive that they were of each other, and that there's a real camaraderie, a real teamwork. You talk about networks. They're building their professional network now that will serve them for their lives, which I think is really cool. From the employer's perspective, how would you define the benefits? If you think about like your best, whatever that best means, but best in class employer partners, what are the benefits that they're seeing and how they're really leveraging the program?
Well, I think most employers, if not all, are recognizing the need to diversify their IT talent, right? I think all the reports indicate that a much more diverse staff lends to the company being better and stronger. For us, I think the ability to create this diverse pipeline of talent for employers that is constantly being regenerated based on what local demand is asking for, is creating a consistent pipeline that employers can count on, right? So, if you need 20 software developers next June, we can produce that for you and work with you to make sure that you have access to that talent when it's ready for you. And I think that's a benefit that most employers, frankly, haven't been able to find elsewhere.
How are you guys seeing, because rightfully so, DEI is very front and center in talent acquisition, company culture, things like that. Again, you made the point at the beginning that your learners tend to come from diverse backgrounds. How would you describe to an employer the benefits of being able to draw on this diverse talent pool?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest benefits, Bob, is that our students hit the ground running. So the return is immediate for the employer, right? Because they have the skills that they told us they need in an employee. The retention rates are significantly higher. So our students are 50% more likely to stay with their company than someone outside. And, you think about and calculate the cost of having to retrain a new employee consistently. That's very, very expensive. And so we're able to mitigate that because our students are loyal. They're very happy with their jobs. They're excited about this opportunity, and they're grateful to their companies for providing that opportunity to them. And so I think it's retention. I think it's hitting the ground running. And, at the end of the day, these are amazing folks. They're going to go on and do. And I think corporations are appreciative of that.
I saw our mutual friend Julie Elberfeld, former CIO at Capital One, had a nice comment in there. So thank you, Julie. And it's great to see you. Yeah, is giving her entire community hope that if I can do this, they believe that maybe they can too, which I probably learned that from you, Julie. So thank you. But I remember Julie also talking about in one of these conversations about that diverse perspective helps companies also design for a diverse user group and a diverse user population. And so if I was designing for, a white male, because that's what I understand the best, I could be a million miles off target, or just all the obvious reasons why that's not a great idea. But if you don't have diverse people saying, well, that's not exactly how I think people in wherever would be using this, or people in my neighborhood, or people who look like me, that's not our experience. That's not how we would think about it. That's not the path to purchase that we would normally have. Well, if you're not hearing those voices, how can you ever design for their experience?
That's right, Bob. I mean, diversity of thought, the different perspectives that our students have contribute mightily to how corporations are thinking about product development, about future growth for the organization, I think it's of huge value to the American business community.
So while we're obviously in heated agreement on a lot of these things, what are the most common objections you hear from employers, potential employer partners, and then what would your response be to those?
I think although we are seeing some improvement around the requirement, the degree requirement, I think that is beginning to diminish a bit. It's still not where I'm hoping to get it to, right? I think there's still a number of employers who are requiring these artificial these requirements that are just eliminating this entire pool of amazing talent that they can have access to. I think we need to figure out a way of fixing that. I also think that corporations need to get better at not only accessing this diverse talent, but keeping them, right? Making sure that they build internal programming that allows this diverse talent to mature and grow within that corporation. We've been working with a number of corporations, thinking that through with them, trying to build these mentorship programs, these additional modules, career advancement coaching that we can provide to our students once they've gotten placed in the job, working with the employer to ensure that these amazing individuals remain within those companies and can continue to thrive.
So, one of the things that as you know, I'm a huge fan of in trying to evangelize, amongst my network. And what I've heard on more than one occasion is, yeah, Bob, but like, you don't understand, like, what it's going to take to incorporate, and make sure that they're work ready, and the extra effort that it's going to take to train and just make sure that they're actually going to work out. And I can't believe somebody said this, but we're just not sure they'll be a good fit for us, which is just like screaming bias to me. I struggle to believe. What's the reality of learners, graduates going to companies and actually onboarding, in a reasonable time frame and in a reasonable way?
Bob, I'm going to be provocative here for a sec. I had the fortune of going to a very good college, and I'm a product of higher education. I would submit that a majority of our graduates are better suited for the workforce than I was when I graduated from the university, primarily because we are producing people that are ready to take on these jobs with the skills that employers are requiring. These folks are self-starters. They are incredible, as I mentioned earlier, motivated and gritty. They are likely to navigate their way successfully within that firm. They just need a chance. And so what often happens with our employer partners is that, our approach to business development is not, this is a good thing for you to do as a company. This is the right thing for you to do as a company because it's a business imperative. And these folks add value. And once they hire one or two of our graduates, they tend to come back.
So you guys are a nonprofit. So how does the model work for the employers, partners, and how does the model work for learners?
So the financial model for learners is real simple. It costs them $0, right? And I'm a firm believer that needs to continue to be the case for our organization. Most of our funding, although it's beginning to change, is really dependent on a largesse of foundations and corporations providing funding. Although over the last several years, the value proposition to employers has become such incredible opportunities for them that they're willing to cover, if not all of the costs, some of the cost of training of their talent. And so we're beginning to get employers contributing to either a fee per placement model or buying a whole class of talent. And I think over time, as we continue to diversify our revenue to have more of a percentage of our income coming from employers, we can continue to scale the way we've intended to do.
I'll be provocative back with you for a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah.
With the word largesse, I would say that for the employer partner, this is an investment in your own self-interest. This is good for you on virtually every level. I generally struggle to think of what the negative is in this. To your point, worker ready, customize the curriculum to suit your needs, bring diversity in a very tangible, not in a poster, or we can have a quarterly meeting and talk about diversity, but like real manifestation of a diversity initiative, and solve your tech talent problem and not overpay for tech talent. I don't see anything negative in all of that except the preconceived notion that, but you need a 4-year degree to come work here. And I think you guys are just smashing that assumption every day, and that smart CIOs, smart CHROs are going to figure out, hey, there's a better way to do this, and we need to be leaders in this and not laggards.
Bob, thank you for challenging that word, because I 100% agree with you. I think the value proposition here is just so significant that more employers should be calling me, right? And I think that's a precluding factor for us to get to more than 10,000. Look, 10,000 people a year is what we aspire to get to. But the truth is, if there was a way to get to 25,000 Americans, 50,000 Americans a year, the market can absorb them. And so let's get more employers on board to access this talent, because it's beneficial to them and it's beneficial to communities across this country.
So we talked a little bit about how the organization has changed over, from its founding to, some of these new tracks that you're offering. How do you, when you guys are having a strategic meeting, and kind of thinking about the next 3 to 5 years, I know it's hard to plan too much in the future, especially with technology, but how do you see the organization continuing to evolve?
Yeah, those strategic meetings are always interesting, Bob. A lot of Post-its and stick-on papers to the wall, right? I think the one thing that's been consistent about this organization is that we've stayed in our lane, right? What we do well is technology training. I don't do well in healthcare training or advanced manufacturing. That's not what we would like to participate in. I think what has allowed us to stay relevant is, again, building these networks of employers that continue to inform our curriculum. And so, what we train now might not be what we train in 4 or 5 years from now. I mean, there are jobs that'll be created that we don't even know about yet.
Right.
But for us, it's making sure that the curriculum continues to change based on local demand and what's trending. And I think that's where workforce development organizations need to be thinking how they should be thinking about this work with employers, that through them, they should be designing these models that allow them to develop the talent that is most relevant for the demand today. And I think that's going to allow us to continue to iterate and pivot and change as the technology changes over time.
Got it. So again, I've been pretty unabashed with, my passion truly for what you guys are doing. It's such a nice intersection for me between my interest in underserved populations. It's mostly been in working with the homeless community for a few decades, career stuff, obviously, with Career Club and all that. You guys are such a great Venn diagram for me. But I think that, again, more broadly, is we really want to address societal issues and the democratization of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
The model that you guys have, there's no barrier to entry for the learner. It solves such a profound issue from a talent perspective, but also diversity. Julie, again, had a great comment around innovation and helping clients actually be more competitive than others. So I think all that is really, really true. As we start to wrap it up a little bit, what are the top 3 messages if you could speak to every CIO of a Fortune 500 company, every CHRO of a Fortune 500 company, what are the three key messages you want to leave them with?
I think the first is, talent is ubiquitous. And if we believe that, then individuals coming from communities like the South Bronx or South Dallas, West Atlanta, provided that they're given the skills through an initiative like this, should be given a chance to prove their value to their companies. And so think differently about the requirements of the position to be more skills-based than degree-based. That would be the first. The second is, look, this issue is not going away. Technology jobs are continuing to grow at record numbers. And corporations, to remain competitive, need to be thinking differently about talent acquisition. And so identifying partners like Per Scholas is incredibly important in their ability to remain competitive as a company. And then the third thing I'd say is, organizations like Per Scholas and our strengths is finding that talent in communities that corporations tend not to go to, right?
Yes.
They're not built that way. And so partner with organizations like us to develop that pipeline of talent for you that is incredibly skilled, that is incredibly cost effective, and is most likely to retain their jobs with you over time. Economically, it just makes sense.
Yes.
So it's think differently about talent acquisition. It's work with organizations like Per Scholas to find that talent for you, and it's ensuring that you think differently about the entry requirements of these jobs going forward.
Yep. So a couple things. One is I want to make sure that everybody who's listening to this, because this is also going to be available as a podcast when we're done. So this will have, I hope, good distribution. As people get the message and they're like, wow, this does make sense. I wonder what my company might be doing with this. What's the best way for an employer partner to reach out to you guys and explore what that opportunity might look like?
So there are a couple of ways. Certainly, go to our website at www.perscholas.org to learn more about the organization, or email me at payala@perscholas.org, and we will connect you to one of our business solutions team members who are just fantastic and can really think through how we can create a pipeline of talent for you.
Okay, terrific. And are there volunteer opportunities? Because, like I told you, I had the opportunity to do like mock interviews and stuff like that a few weeks ago. If somebody wanted to get involved locally or some other level, are those options available to people?
100%. And thank you for sharing that, Bob. We are constantly looking for volunteers that can help us with mock interviews, resume reviews of our students. Come in and do a lunch and learn where you share your experience in your tech job with our students. Speak at a graduation.
Yes.
Join one of our advisory boards. Each city has an advisory board. If you want to talk to us about curriculum development, you can volunteer doing that as well. I think there are a number of ways for volunteers to engage with Per Scholas.
Yeah, so I'm so glad to hear that and to know that that can be in a bunch of different ways, that whatever your talent is, whatever it is that you want to bring to the organization, you guys could probably use the help. So Plinio, again, I'm a huge fan. It's such a pleasure to be able to have you on, to hear the story, for you to be able to share it first person and not get my diluted version of it. So I appreciate you sharing it. For people who are listening to this, in all seriousness, go to your CIO, go to your head of HR and say, what are we doing? If we're really taking diversity seriously, if we really do have a talent problem, on the tech side of our business, are we exploring something like Per Scholas? And if not, why not? And can I help make that introduction to the organization? This is the kind of an issue where if people want to be involved, it's pretty easy. The barrier to entry is almost zero to go make a positive impact. And rather than us kind of, wring our hands and say, well, somebody should be doing something about this, Per Scholas is doing something about this, and it's a very easy on-ramp to be part of the solution to tech talent, but again, I believe more broadly, democratizing opportunities in our society that are essentially future-proof. So, Plinio, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Thank you for carving out a few minutes to join us today, and it's just been a real pleasure.
Bob, pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I hope everybody has a great day, and we'll see you soon.